I'm not sitting down. I'll try later. I don't have to fart.
Yeah, we gotta know. This is important for us to know for future podcasts.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wrestling Show with the Brewd. I am, as always, Bud Robinson. To my left is Leon Robinson. Say hello, Leon.
Hi, guys.
And to my right, the ever-popular Saint Town. Say hi, Town.
Saint Town of Townley. Aren't we the wrestling hour with the Brewd, not the wrestling show with the Brewd?
Did I say the wrestling show?
You sure did. But fuck it, let's go.
I got most of it. Only
Yay,
Bud! Wrestling hour.
You said it fucking right. All right,
like, seriously, all day.
I believe that.
Anyway. So today we are talking about, unfortunately, a very somber subject. We're talking about one of the WWA originals, Adam Jensen, who we lost late last year. Is that right?
Early 2020.
Early 2020. Oh, so a lot longer ago than I thought.
Yeah, we're almost on 2 years. As weird as that sounds.
Jeez. So as we did sort of last episode.
Wow, one episode a year. We're doing good.
Yeah. I kind of have to relinquish the floor to Town because he knew Jensen before any of us did.
That's true. The first time I met him, I think I know it was kindergarten. We went to the same kindergarten. I was a PM kid. He was an AM kid. But I know that was the first time I met him. I'm pretty sure he was in the same kindergarten class as Rainville. So I met him in kindergarten, and we knew each other in kindergarten. And we hung out a little bit. And then back probably around middle school and freshman year of high school, I kind of reconnected with him. And I would think that I'm trying to exactly remember, but we had a show, Jake, that you were at, Bud, whatever I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you 4 different names.
That's fine.
We had a show that you were at that he came to, and it was one random day. We'll get to that, though. We're going to start with how you guys, the first time that you met him. We can go over to you, Bud. When did you meet him?
I actually think that show was the first time I met him. I think, I'm sure that I knew him from school, but we didn't run in the same circles, right? So, it was kind of a passing, and middle school is kind of like you just don't you don't have the same classes with everybody. So, I think that show was the first time I ever said, hello to him, probably.
How about you, Leon? It's your turn.
I think I was kind of tangentially aware of the kid in middle school. He was a personality. He was a bigger kid. He had that spiky bleached blonde hair going on.
He did.
Yeah, but I think the first I actually interacted with him was when I first started showing up for shows, when you first invited me over and everything. Pretty sure.
That sounds right.
And so we can go from there. Right to
we can talk about that first show, because I remember that first show very, very well, because it was in the old school. Put out the lawn chairs.
Yeah.
And tie a rope around them. And we had the old bar stool we used as a turnbuckle, so we had one turnbuckle.
Oh, God, yeah.
So you could do moves off of one turnbuckle.
Which became
I remember he came that day, and he wanted to. It was the spring of freshman year, and he wanted to wrestle with us, and our dear leader thought it'd be good if we had him, which surprised me, because it's just the two of them together didn't make sense to me, because they are not the same type of person. So everybody right now is just shaking their head like, what? But that's the truth. And he showed up. Rainville was there. I was there. Bud, you were there. I'm pretty sure the leader was there. Cyclone might have been there, but I don't think he was. I think Canyon was there. Maybe it was a show. It was one of the shows when nobody could drive, so it was all a matter of how can you get here. This was like a couple months before Rainbow got his license, but we brought him in, and we somehow got a copy of the ICP album, The Great Malenko, and we listened to the. This is me and Rainbow, by the way. This is nobody else can take credit for this but us. We listened to that opening track on there where they talk on the jukebox, and it's just, if you ever heard it, it's just got awful. And we heard it, and then they went into this song, and we're like, dude, that could be a wrestler, the Great Malenko. And then Jensen was coming up, let's do that. So the whole premise of the show, God, this I'll never forget watching this back, dude, because it's about the stupidest thing ever, is Scott Borden was bringing in a new henchman to be his backup. And he said it was the Great Malenko, and so I came out with a fucking stocking cap over my head, over my eyes, like a mask. And I pretended to be him, and then I beat up Borden, and then the music hit, and Jensen came out as the Great Malenko, and it was really stupid. I don't know.
You guys decided that his first gimmick would be the Great Malenko, and that wasn't his idea?
I thought it was his.
It was no. It was totally me and Rainville, because we thought it was. Because at that point, a lot of what was going on was kind of moving from the old person in charge to kind of what we were doing. So we were kind of doing our own thing, and we literally thought it was the best idea ever. Like, you could not have talked us out of it, because we were like, this will be awesome. It's a cool name, and plus he's got a theme song with his name in it. How freaking awesome is that? He was hard to get a hold of at that point. And it was summer, and he was kind of doing his own thing. We were doing our own thing. And then we went back to school in the fall.
That's when
I had biology class with him, and he was in the same biology class, and he asked me how that wrestling thing was going. I'm like, it's going good. You want to come back? Yeah, I do. So then I'm like, okay, well, we'll pick you up because Rainville has a car. So then he started showing up every time, which I think it was just he didn't want to walk, and he couldn't get a ride. I think that's what it kind of boiled down to. Because we did these shows like random days, and like there was no schedule. A lot of days it was like call you in the morning and be like, hey, it's summer, you guys want to wrestle today? As opposed to, I think one summer I had a calendar, which worked, except then we didn't follow it because we were teenagers. We couldn't plan anything. So, but he came back. He came back that fall, and he came back as Big Daddy. And Jake's smiling because he also remembers Big Daddy. I think he was a pimp.
Yeah.
Or like a pseudo pimp.
He might have even come out to Pimpin' Ain't Easy.
Wrestler?
I know he came out to the song "Twisted Steel Leather Donut" because I got the Orgasmo soundtrack for Christmas, and the song was cool, and he liked it.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Can I come out to that?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. That sounds great." And then eventually we worked him back in. He decided that he was going to be Adam Jensen too. We had a couple other really goofy characters in between. Uncle Buck. Everyone remembers Uncle Buck.
I remember Uncle Buck.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I never knew. He just came to me one day before a show and was like, I got an idea for a character. I'm going to be Uncle Buck. I'm like, oh, okay. What is it? I don't know. And he just went out and did it. It was hilarious. So I mean, his initial return there was pretty. I think he was just getting a feel for it.
Yeah. I
think Big Daddy was a character that he didn't have a lot of idea with, and he was just trying to throw stuff at the wall to see what would click. And then eventually, when he kind of settled in and became Adam Jensen, I think he got a little comfortable, and he started using the pancake, and he wanted you to get the syrup. You got the syrup, and then he hit you with the pancake. I mean, that was kind of when things clicked for him.
Well, before we talk about Adam Jensen, maybe you can talk about Rex.
That's exactly where we're going. So,
because I think Jensen was closer to his personality, but I think Rex was like his crazy bonkers side.
Yes. Rex was his. I'm gonna make everybody in this room laugh and smile, and we're all gonna have a good time.
For sure.
So again, I remember exactly when we came up with Rex. Okay, and it was New Year's Eve. And it would have been New Year's Eve, 2000. It would have had to have been 2000. And it was myself, and it was Rainville, and it was our former Dear Leader who wasn't the Dear Leader anymore. And we were playing whatever WWF game was out at the time. And we were making a character. And our Dear Leader was making a wrestler, and he was talking about how cool it was and how he should have a manager. And then he's like, I'm going to make myself a manager, too. I want to get a manager for this game. Because it was one where you could have a manager walk you out.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rainbow was like, oh, it should be a dude. And then it was like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, it should be a male stripper. And then our Dear Leader's like, it should be like a big hairy dude, and we should call him Rex. That literally is how we came up with Rex. And so we joked about that for a while. And I remember it was kind of an ongoing thing, and Jensen heard it. And he was like, I could do that. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I could. That's right. That sounds great. I'll be Rex. So the idea here was that he was going to come off very effeminate, and it was going to appear that Rex was not straight. However, when called out upon it, he would be just absolutely baffled and say, what are you talking about? I'm just adventurous.
Mm-hmm.
That was literally his catchphrase.
Yeah.
And it was just, Jensen was a guy who could take the silliest idea, and it freaking worked. He understood how to do it. And I don't think he ever got enough credit for what he did with us, because we all had our strong suits, and his strong suit was comedy matches, and his strong suit was taking a character that no one else could have ran with and not just making it work, but making it really, really work. Like, Rex legitimately was a main event guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could put him in there with the main event guys and it would make sense. And that was almost instantaneous. And he wasn't necessarily, that's a character normally, like in the history of professional wrestling, that's a bad guy. It's a heater. It's cheapy.
Yeah.
Oh, you're acting like a girl. You're doing this, doing that. We're going to boo you just because of how you act. But he was like, you wanted to cheer for him.
Yeah, for sure.
And he nothing bothered him in that character. Mm-hmm. He would put on a nightgown and act silly in that, and he did not care. And he would just, there was times where we almost had to stop recording because we were laughing so damn hard. And
he would stay in the character the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
All of us would be fucking breaking, and he would be...
Yeah, we weren't good about that. He was.
He never broke. He never, nothing was ever too far.
Mm-hmm. Like, he got just into the character, and like you said, nothing could break him out of it. Like, he acted oblivious. Like, why are you guys laughing? What's going on?
Well,
like it was
the most natural thing in the world.
Yeah. But in the last episode, you had mentioned, Town, that when Orgasmo came in, when Leon came in, he understood his role. He understood his niche, and I think that's true for Rex too. Like, I don't even know that it was like he understood it. He was just like, I can totally do that. That's just a part of.
I think he understood the psychology of a comedy character.
Yeah.
Just naturally, but he was able to, at the same time, like when he was Adam Jensen, he was able to kind of go to that dark, weird side.
Yeah.
And he was able to just do that fine too. So I think he understood character work better than at a time where none of us understood it, and we were all one-trick ponies who had our one thing, and we all thought, oh, we need a catchphrase, or we need this, or we need that. He was a whole character with like depth and levels, and we weren't. And I think that was the beauty of Rex in a lot of ways.
Well, again, like you said last week, that we all wanted to be Stone Cold, right? We all wanted to be a Rock. We all wanted to be the guy, right? And so I think we wanted to be cool like that. We wanted to be the cool guys. Jensen was totally fine being the goof because that fit him.
He did, and I think a lot of times with him, I think he was more comfortable being the goof than he was having to be the guy, and we'll talk about that when we talk about his title run. But I mean, it's just we gave him interesting feuds, and we gave him feuds with guys that were weird, and it just worked. And he just slowly climbed the card as Rex. But then at the same time, when he started really taking off as Rex, his other character, Adam Jensen, he took off at the same time.
Yeah.
And he, we had a build with him. And I might remember this build better than you, Bud, because I just remember what we were doing.
Yeah.
Our initial plan for WrestleFest 2000, which was like our WrestleMania. We were really original. Our initial plan for WrestleFest was hardcore board. Shocker, right? And we at the same time we were trying to build Jensen up, but I don't know that we ever had any intent of making him the champion until the feud that Hardcore had, which was me, Hardcore and Jensen had, was like, it was good. It worked, and we had that 60-minute Iron Man match that in my entire life I will never freaking forget. Because we literally went 60 minutes, and we probably knew a combined 12 moves. So, and I remember we went into this match, and we had all these grandiose ideas, and I just remember I think you reffed that match. I'm like 100% sure you. I'm 100% sure you reffed that match, because some of my funniest matches that were reffed were by you. Because it seems like if you were my ref, Mosh ref actually, it was Mosh ref. When you were Mosh ref, every hilarious thing that had happened that a ref heard and laughed about was always you. And we're 5 minutes into this match, we did these spots, and Jensen puts me in like a headlock, and just leans over and goes, "Dude, I'm tired." Jake just starts freaking laughing. It's like, how much time we got? Oh, 55 minutes. Oh, shit. But we went that whole match. We slowed it down. We did what we had to do. And I remember we picked it up. It was actually, for the time, it was a very well laid out match for us, which shocks me because we weren't laying anything out. But we had a really good ending put together for that. Where Scott Borden came out, caused Jensen to get disqualified, but then Jensen caught me with a pancake and pinned me, so it was 7-6. And then I was still out of it, and he got me up and he hit me with a second pancake, was going for another pinfall, but time ran out. And it went fucking perfect. That's all I remember, is it went fucking perfect. And I remember after that, he was freaking happy because we survived. And I remember we did the total elimination over the top battle royal afterwards. And you guys were all in the ring, and me and him were taking a break because we were shot.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I think that was a really good match. I'm like, dude, that was a really good match. And then we had the conversation because of that screwy finish. I don't know what our plan was, because I know we didn't have a paper, because it went total elimination, then WrestleFest. We kind of talked about it, Jake, because I remember talking to you on the phone. I'm like, I think we should give the belt to Jensen, because it'd just be something different. So we went to I'm the historian here, by the way, just so everybody knows. I remember all this shit. Yes. So we went to WrestleFest, and we had a triple threat match. And the idea...
Sheets open there.
What'd you say?
I said, I feel like you should have all your old booking sheets open there.
I don't have them. I have some, but I don't have those. We went there to WrestleFest, and we had a triple threat match, and the idea that we had, which never happened, was we were going to do a really serious hardcore Jensen feud. And he pinned Scott Borden, because we had some screwy finish, and Scott Borden got caught in the pancake and pinned. And he was super happy that day because he wanted to be champion. And then he got the championship, and I think he got it, and I think he was like, okay, I don't know if I really want this. When he was just, and there was a multitude of things that happened during his title reign that kind of sucked, because one of them was Orgasmo debuted, so Leon showed up. So instead of the focal point being on,
Why did that suck?
well, the in-ring work sucked. Well, but here's why it sucked, and it's not that it was bad to have you, because it wasn't. What sucked was we had these plans these plans for him to do these things, to be the guy, and then when you have like Hardcore and Borden and Shockwave, and now you have this new guy in Orgasmo, you have all these guys, and we have all these things that are going on. Somebody's going to get left behind, and it was him. And I don't think it was on purpose. I think it was a matter of, I think the way we looked at it, and the way, and you can disagree with me on this one or not, Jake, but this is kind of the way I saw it, was when you have the championship, you're the top guy. So we just don't kind of have to worry about you. We'll just fit you in and you'll be fine.
Yeah. I think, I vaguely remember that being around the time that they did a similar thing with Big Show. And I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering this, but I vaguely remember you and I having conversations and being like, you know, Big Show is still a big deal. Like, we can do something similar and still have these other guys on top. And for someone like, I mean, this was the first time Jensen was champion. So like, it
was the only time.
Can't really do it. But like a first-time champion, you can't really do that for a first-time champion, right? Like, you have to put more focal point on them.
He just literally fell through the cracks, because we had all this stuff planned, and then when we got Orgasmo, then things changed, because then we got to work him in. Well, and here's this dude that's 6'9". He's totally different. He's totally a different thing. And I remember the first pay-per-view that Leon was at, or the first show or something, and this would have been our first quote-unquote pay-per-view, and Jensen fought Triple G for the world title. And like the fourth match on the card.
Yeah.
And that was when you kind of knew it was like, oh, we have not done a good job with this. But the problem literally was this: we had the Hardcore Borden thing going, and then we threw in Orgasmo, and then we had Shockwave. So we had all these different pieces kind of working together, and we were going for we had this big storyline planned, where Borden and Hardcore left, and Orgasmo and G-Shock took over, and then, and then they came back. So we had this whole big storyline plan that we actually followed through, which was like the first time we ever did that. But it was just, he kind of just got lost in that shuffle.
Yeah.
At a time where we shouldn't have done that. And that's, I mean, I regret that to this day, because I think we could have done a better job. And I think, that leads into the next point of his hiatus, which basically was, after sophomore year, he went to Appleton. And he was just kind of like, I've had fun, but I'm done. I'm not going to wrestle anymore. I'm moving. I'm doing this and doing that. He just wasn't, he wasn't interested in it at that point. And I think I don't think being the champion of a backyard wrestling company meant to him what it meant to us. And I think but I also think at the same time, I think there was like a level of, and he never would have said it, and he never would have come out and been like, yeah, that was it. But I think there was like this level of frustration of, well, when you guys are the champion, you're on last. You're the focal point. You're doing everything. And now I'm champion. And I'm doing the same thing I was doing before. I just have a belt.
Yeah. Sure.
So, and I think that was, that was, and we've had other instances where we've had champions that, that fell through the cracks for various different reasons. And I think this was just, I think it was bad timing. I really do. I think if we could have, because we never had an issue with anybody else, because like we'd feed people to them. How many times, when somebody won a championship, we'd all lose to them, be fine. I don't think that was ever out of year one, I don't think that was ever a problem. I don't think anybody ever cared if they lost, if it made sense.
Right.
But this was just an instance of we just didn't do it right. And I don't think there's any. That's hard. Like, that's a hard one to deal with, because you look back on it and you want to remember, man, we did this so good, we did that so good, but we really did not do a good job of this. And that's on you and me, but
Yeah,
I mean, we just did not. We just did not do a good job with that. That would be one time where yes, we were.
Yeah.
So he was gone for about a summer. He came back the next school year, in the fall. He came back from Appleton, and it was, he came back, and I think that when he came back, it was all about Rex. There was no, there was nothing really else there for a while. He came back, he did his own thing, and then there was a second hiatus towards the end of senior year. And really in that time in between, it was just kind of status quo for him. I don't think he was fully in to wrestling like we were at the time. He liked it, but he was kind of like, there was other things that were going on that he was more interested in. There was other stuff going on in his world.
I think he was more into like being with us, like hanging out with us.
Yeah.
Than he was with the wrestling, and wrestling was kind of our world at that point.
So after we graduated high school, when he came back, I think was when he really, those final 2 years or 3 years, whatever it was, he did his best work, and he came back, and he came back and he was Rex, and there was no Jensen, there was no nothing else. I'm just gonna be Rex. I want to be Rex. He wasn't too gung-ho to work. He was more interested in doing the angles. He was more interested in doing stuff like that, like being a ref.
Stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he wanted to do.
He loved doing that stuff. And it was, I mean, a lot of us got in on it with other characters later on and everything, but he was the first one where, like I mentioned earlier, where I don't know if it was a goal of his, but it just seemed like he was there trying to entertain us and entertain himself and kind of try to get us to break.
Oh God, he did though.
Yeah, just start laughing and everything on camera. Like, I wasn't Orgasmo anymore. I'm freaking Lucas, and I'm laughing my butt off because this dude is acting just acting a fool.
I think it's really, really important to also say that when he came back as Rex and he wasn't working, he added a shitload to the show. He didn't need to work at that point. He could come out and he could do a silly segment. He could do something in the back. And then he worked some matches, but his matches were always quick comedy matches. Because he just wasn't, his back was hurting him. I remember that. I just don't think he wanted to. I don't think he felt good at that point. I think he was just kind of interested in. He wanted to hang out with the boys because he was a big part of this. He was, if you take the top guys in this company, his name's there every single time because he was a vital part. And we managed to work in Adam Jensen back in as a character. He wanted to do that a little bit, and we were really kind of used him as an enforcer. He refereed a couple matches. He started doing this and started doing that. The other thing that he did, we'll get to the other one in a second, but the other character he had was Bad Leroy Brown, which every single one of us here at one point or another beat the crap out of and made bleed. And the backstory on Bad Leroy Brown was, we were in my basement. We were probably intoxicated, and we were listening to 1960s music, and we heard Bad Leroy Brown, and we were drunk, and Jensen was just like, that's a good name for a wrestler. I'm like, that'd be a great name. just for a guy who comes out and just gets his ass kicked. And he's like, yeah. And every time he gets his ass kicked, he bleeds. And then he was like, should I do that? I'm going to do that. Yeah, I'm going to be Bad Leroy Brown. So the next time we come to the show, the next show we have, he comes. He's got like a pair of khaki pants and a dress-up shirt. And I'm like, what are you wearing? He's like, I'm Bad Leroy Brown. And it was like, oh. And he came to that ring, and I think the first one to beat him up, I'm pretty sure it had to be the Town Drunk, because he was the authority figure to the Town Drunk. And he came out there, and he starts talking shit to the Town Drunk, and then he does that shuffle and those fists up. And then I just hit him, and he fell down. And I beat the shit out of him. And he's poured the fake blood on his head, and he's just completely unconscious. And every single show, someone beat the shit out of him. And it was like the perfect... Because he was like I'm going to talk to shit, I'm going to act like a badass. But then I'm just going to get my ass absolutely kicked. And he freaking loved that character. He freaking loved that character. The other... Okay. I just remember this one in my head. The other... the big feud that Rex had at the end. Leon, do you remember what that feud was? Come on, Leon. What was Rex's feud at the end? Who was his arch enemy that became his unarch enemy?
It was Leon.
It wasn't Leon. It was
No?
Joshua.
Who the fuck was Joshua? I saw that and I couldn't remember. Like, I looked through the notes and I couldn't recall who the hell that was.
It's you.
What? Help me out here. Who the hell was Joshua?
The man who wanted to be Leon's lover. And had a Vaseline on a pole match with him.
I think this whole angle handled while I was gone. So
his name was Joshua. What did you think his name was?
I thought he was Rex for that match.
He was Rex. You were Joshua.
I don't remember Joshua at all. I thought I was Leon for that.
No, that was Joshua. Okay, let me tell a story, and then let's see if this reminds you.
I am not recall. Like I thought it was Leon in the Vaseline on a pole match.
Oh no, it was Joshua.
I remember coming to the back and like I was gross.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in a moment. But we came up. That was our last summer. We came up with an angle that an actual non-straight guy would show up in the WWA and want to be Rex's husband, lover, however you want to put that. And we decided, again, Leon. This was a multi-way decision because it was me, it was Bud, and it was you. And I'm pretty sure Rainbow was in on it. And I bet you Jensen was there because that's kind of how things were back then. And we decided you were going to be the one to do it. And we asked you, what do you want to call yourself? And you said Joshua. And I said, you want to be called Josh? And you said, no, I'm going to be Joshua. You have to say the full name or it's not appropriate. So you spent the whole summer trying to earn Rex's love and affection.
I was courting Rex.
You were kind of quoting Rex. You were Rex, but not Rex. You were Joshua. It was different. It was kind of a clone, though, in a way, I guess.
No, I said courting, not quoting.
You were courting, yeah. Yeah,
I was trying to woo him.
You wooed him. You did actually completed it by the end. But that by far, if we don't talk about this Vaseline on a pole match, the only time we ever used the pole because we weren't Vince Russo,
right?
But we had Rainville duct tape a piece of wood.
Could have had a pole match.
No, we had Rainville duct tape a pole to the post. And we duct tape Vaseline to the pole. And
it wasn't duct tape because we could take it down. I remember that.
no, it was duct taped on. You had to rip it off.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, and it was Rex won the match, and then I remember. So if you got the Vaseline off the pole, you got to use it. I have no idea what possessed us to do that. I do. We were probably, again, it was one of those things like, how stupid would that be? And we went back and forth, and Jensen was like, oh, we should totally do that. Let's do that. All I remember is I reffed that match. I'm pretty sure it was me or no, I did. I reffed that match. Did I or did Rainville? I'm pretty sure it was me. Yeah, it was me, because I remember walking around and like trying not to step in the globs of Vaseline. Is Jensen won the match, opened the Vaseline, stuck his hand in, takes out this huge glob and just smears it on Leon's chest, on Joshua's chest. And it's just like...
It was not Leon.
It was Joshua. It's Joshua.
Don't sell Leon's name.
The look on your face, Joshua, as I will call you now, was just like this look of, I'm so uncomfortable right now. And most people in that situation would have just left it at that and left the ring. But no, because Joshua takes his hand, reaches into the Vaseline, and pulls out this huge glob and rubs it on Jensen's chest. Now, Jensen was a hairy dude.
Yes,
like
very.
The hairiest dude I've ever seen. And he wasn't wearing a shirt, and he had this Vaseline was just globbed in his hair. And at this point, everybody's just... And Buddy, I don't think you were there for that.
I was not, no.
And I just remember sitting there, and I walked out of the ring, and I wasn't laughing. I was more just like, oh, what did we just do?
I actually think that happened a week or two before I came back. And you didn't actually tell me about it until I actually showed up. And you mentioned it sort of offhand. I was like, wait, hold on, back up. What are you talking about?
We did it.
I had
and
a
then
good
it
laugh
was,
about that.
Then we had our main event that night was hardcore board, because we were setting up for a hardcore Orgasmo match. I remember that too, because I remember the build. And we're having this fucking match, and we were like 2 matches after, and neither of us had wrestled in the Vaseline. And I go to give him a freaking clothesline, and he takes the strangest bump I've ever seen. It was just like this flunk, and he's down like instantly. And I look at his face, and he's just got this look on his face like, what in the hell am I laying in? So he slipped in the Vaseline, and then he was covered in Vaseline. And after that show, that rug was just covered in Vaseline, and Jensen thought it was the most hilarious freaking thing ever. He laughed his ass off because he thought it was funny. It was pretty... Do you have any memories of that one, Leon? I mean, you were in the match. What do you remember? You don't even remember the build. You don't even remember who you were, but...
I remember it was very ooey gooey. But, I mean, like, it was one of those where at first it was kind of just like, oh, Jesus, fuck, what is... And then just kind of going with it. Like, all right, let's do this.
But
And I grabbed it myself and smeared it on him and, you know, got it into that abundant mane that was his body. Just worked it in there.
Oh, my God.
You know what? I'm like, you know what? This is happening, so I'm just gonna go for it wholeheartedly. Here, let's do this.
The thing though is that when you went to put it on him, he like stuck his chest out. He was ready, but that was him. That was him to a T. Every time we were doing something ridiculous, it was like, yeah, let's do it. There was never a moment where he was like, no, he didn't care. He was just he was wanting to entertain.
He did not get embarrassed. Not easily, anyway.
No, not in the wrestling ring.
Yeah.
Outside of it, in social settings and stuff like that, he was really easy to embarrass. But in the ring, it was like there was a comfort level that was just, here I am, this is what I'm doing, this is my character, and man, I believe in this character, and I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
And he it just never changed. That never changed with him. The final show with him, we had the Rex Joshua match, which, again, Leon, we're apparently teaching you about your own career here. You guys had a love him or leave him match.
Legitimately had zero recollection of Joshua.
Now,
I was trying to remember who the hell that was.
It's you.
Like I knew I was in the Vaseline match with him, but I'm like, did they do another one? Did who the hell was Joshua? I was sitting there like, was that another one of Rainville's characters that I forgot about maybe? Or
I think to be honest, I think what happened was, Jensen, or Rex, I should say, started a relationship with. It was one of Brooke's characters. I think it was Nikki was her name. And then Nikki brought in Joshua. And there's a hilarious story that we can tell about Nikki sometime, but we're not telling that one today because I'm not sure it's appropriate. But it was fun, really, really funny. But
that wasn't. Was it Nikki or was it Russia?
No, it was Nikki because she was not the same person as Russia. But she was there at the same time, so she was doing the Russia stuff, but she was also doing the Rex stuff.
Gotcha.
She was also Leon's girlfriend, Guinevere. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but I do.
A little.
I do recall the naming being my thing.
I'll be frankly honest with you. All I remember about that was the day you started dating her. You got two birds in the bees talk that were completely different. One from Bud Robinson and one from the Town Drunk. You could probably guess how those went.
Inaccurately. Misinformation.
In two completely opposite ways.
Because you have the birds and the bees. I remember trying to make the connection between birds and bees. Like actual birds and bees.
Towns was slightly different than that. Slightly different. But we went into that final show, and he had the match with Joshua. And Rex actually beat Joshua, but then decided that he loved him, and you picked him up and carried him out. Do you remember doing that, Leon?
Fuck, yes, I do.
That was his Joshua. You guys went off and lived happily ever after.
That's adorable.
And then we had Bad Leroy Brown fought Jimbo the janitor for the loser had to clean the ring. Do you remember that one, Jimbo the janitor?
I do.
AKA
I'm
Bud?
pretty sure I lost.
No, you won.
I did?
You won. Bad Leroy Brown never won. You beat the crap out of him. He picked on you because he thought he could beat you up, and then you just beat the crap out of him. And then you handed him the broom and walked away.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, that was.
Must have been one of the other 100 times that I grumbled about cleaning the ring.
Yeah, that was what Jimbo did. So he was perfectly fine with the Rex match. He was perfectly fine with the Jimbo thing. And then we had a match between Jensen and my favorite red pepper snorting idiot, Nemo. Which he went back and forth on that one a lot with me. We had a lot of conversations about he didn't want to do it. He was I don't think I can work. I don't think I'm in shape. I don't think I can do it anymore. Was a lot of what he said. So he was way more interested, as we said before, in just doing the other stuff, the comedy, the simple stuff. Yeah. And I remember Nemo, who was my character, who was a complete idiot, dipshit. That I don't even know. I wore like a Hawaiian shirt, and I was just stupid. That was my gimmick. I remember that summer that I got hooked up as Shockwave's lackey.
Mm-hmm.
And never, ever was there a better heel duo in our company than Shockwave and Nemo. Because they were perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And Shockwave knew Nemo was an idiot, but he also knew Nemo would do whatever the hell he wanted him to do. And it was just a perfect match. But we started doing a feud. And he was just like, dude, I don't think I can do this match. I just don't think I can do it. I don't know if I want to. And we kept talking about it, and I'm like, dude, 5 minutes. That's all we got to do. This is a match about you. It's not a match about Nemo. You know, we're going to go out there. You do your thing. You just kick my ass, hit your special moves, hit your finisher. And he's like, okay. And we went out there, and the first thing he says is, he just grabs my arm and goes, I completely forgot what we were going to do. Okay, that's a good start. So I'm like, okay.
On the ring, baby.
I'm like, okay. And then I told him what we had planned, and he's like, I can't do that. I'm like, okay, well, here, grab my arm. You're going to work my arm over, because I had nothing else to do. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm just, you have my arm, let me think. And we proceeded to have this weirdly technical match, which is not a match that him and I ever had. Because we never had a technical match, but we had this weirdly technical match where he worked my arm over, and I got a little heat back on him. And then he made his comeback and hit the pancake, and it was probably the best pancake I ever took. Because I was selling my ass off for him, because he deserved that moment to be, you know, that day was about being your best, and everybody had their moment. Win or lose, we all had our moment that day. And he needed to have his moment too. And I think when he won that match, he was I think he felt good. I think he was very happy. I think that was a good way for him to go out. I do want to break from this and tell a hilarious story, because something I did want to talk about that I forgot to put on here was the time that him and I'm pretty sure you were both there too, had a ladder match for the U.S. belt, Hardcore versus Jensen, and we decided that it'd be a really cool idea if it was a chain ladder match. Does anyone remember that?
Yes. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And we had a dog chain, we chained each other up, and we started doing this match, and he does this bump off the ladder, and I went to move or something, and the chain goes flying and just wraps around the back of his fucking head, and he's like, just fucking goes to me, take this fucking chain off of me, we're not using a fucking chain. So he's got cuts on the back of his head. I'm like, okay. And we were building to a spear off a ladder spot. And he freaking just fucking drills me. And somehow we turned in midair and I landed on his knees. And I remember we went to the fair to watch the fireworks that night. And I was in so much freaking pain from that. That freaking hurt. But I'll never forget that night too. That was just, take this fucking chain off of me.
Actually, since you're sharing a story, I would like to share a story that
Go ahead.
we probably should have done earlier. I think it was around WrestleFest. He and I had a match. It might have even been for the world title. But I remember that I was like, I had this idea for a move. I think it's something that Matt Hardy did, where you it's like he sets it up like a rock bottom, right? He flies forward and kicks it, he kicks his legs out and the other guy falls on their back, right? So it's sort of like, yes, the side effect. But I was trying to explain that to him, because at that point I think it was a new move and he didn't know what it was. So I was trying to explain it to him. And I don't remember why I thought he got it, but he didn't. And so we went out there and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this move. And so I kicked my feet out and tried to go forward. He sort of just stood there, and because I had my arm around him, he tumbled over and landed on my ribs. And so we finished the match. I was like, oh, my fucking ribs really hurt. And it turned out 2 weeks later, I found out that he broke my ribs.
That was about what he did. It seemed like he was a rib breaker sometimes, but he wasn't necessarily sloppy.
No, not at all. I think it was.
He was a big dude, and let's face it, not the most coordinated or athletic of all of us. So sometimes accidents happen.
I think in that situation it was my fault. I think I was overconfident in the way that I had explained it to him, and he didn't get it.
To his defense, you were a spot monkey who always thought, let's do this spot. Let's do this spot. I got an idea for this spot.
Anyway.
Leon, any stories? Any stories you want to throw in at this point? Because this is the time I think to do it.
Yeah.
Nothing specific ever over the last week of thinking about it when we decided we were going to do this episode. Like, not like any specific moments or anything from matches or comedy, but it was just the thing that I brought up a couple times before is where how he would be so into the character and like, okay, maybe into the character is not the right thing, but he would stay in character to the detriment of all of ours because he would be into character so much that he was trying to break us and pretty much almost batted 1,000 on that.
He's almost always succeeded.
Because if he decided that he was fucking with you in this one, in this segment or in this match, you were gonna break.
There's no you no shot.
Like you could try to go back at him with it, try to go over the top on him. Like every once in a while, you'd get him to start giggling and everything, but more often than not, he would no sell it and come back even fucking dumber at you until you broke. That's the thing that I remembered about him because he would, like, let's face it, even when we were, really trying to make better matches and tell better stories and all that, it was still our character stuff all the time, but motherfucker would break us. Like it was his mission in life to make us crack on screen. And
the thing,
like it was very much akin to like when you were being Town, or when I was being Leon. Like, only it was every character he had, and he was good at it.
He could the thing with him that always amazed me was how, if one of us was there and we were being goofy and we were being stupid, we'd go out there and we'd have this just shit match. And then he would go out there as Rex and he would just like live this Rex way and he would have a perfectly fine match. Like he knew exactly what he had to do. He understood that character to such a point where it was almost like Hulk Hogan. You knew what a Hulk Hogan match was. We knew what a Rex match was. You knew what you were going to get. You knew his spots. You knew what he had to do and he knew how to put it together. And it never ceased to amaze me because he could be in just complete, I'm gonna break you. You're not gonna make it through this match without cracking up. But this match is still gonna be exactly what it needs to be, and it was every time. It was every time, and he was fun. I mean, he was fun to work with. I always thought he was fun. Like the Iron Man match we had, that was fun. Working with Rex, that was fun. Like he was the fun guy to work with. He never and there was no ego. The rest of us had ego of some variety, and I will admit it, and everybody will admit it. There were certain points where we wanted to look better, especially our top guys. We would never want to make ourselves look bad, but he never cared.
Yeah,
he never cared about that. He never cared about how he looked.
And I think in that respect, he got it better than any of us.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree 100%. He, I think towards the end we started to get it, but I think he got it right away. I think he knew. And it's not like he wasn't serious about it because he still was serious about it.
Yeah, but he had zero qualms about looking silly or making an ass out of himself. He was okay with it. Like he wasn't like, oh no, I can't do that. Like he's like, fuck yeah, let's do this. Actually, let's do this and this and this too to make it even more ridiculous.
He had a really odd ability to create within those. Like I look now at these comedy wrestlers like the Orange Cassidys and those, and it's like, dude, that was Jensen. That's Jensen. That's what he was. He had it to a T. He was perfect. He knew how to go out there. He knew how to make you laugh, but he knew how to make a match watchable, and he knew how to get you behind him. And we gave him a character that was like Adrian Adonis in the mid '80s. Just heat. Nobody's ever gonna like this guy. We're just gonna boo him, and it's the cheapest heat. And he wasn't a freaking bad guy because he was a good guy because that's how good he did it. It was amazing to me the way he hit on that. Just absolutely amazing. Where are we here? So, we ended the WWA. That was the last show. And he hung around Wausau for a little bit. Then he went over to Appleton. And he was there pretty much, God, from the time we were 22, 21, 22, to when he was 35. And then, the last time we saw him, for you guys, it was probably that show.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't, because I remember we went to...
Yeah, Rainbow's wedding?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I was trying to remember if he was with you guys when we met up with you that night.
No, he wasn't. The last time he probably actually saw you, Bud, was when we met your wife the first time. And you guys had the hotel in Wausau, and we all came over and visited you. No clue if you remember that, but I do.
I vaguely remember that, yeah.
And the reality of it was he was doing his own thing down there, and I didn't see him. And we've grown apart too, in a way, but we haven't at the same time. It was really hard to get him to want to come up here, and it was really hard for me to get down there because hey, we got jobs, we're doing stuff, and it never wants to lie. I need to get married, so you guys have to all come to one place. I'm not even kidding.
He wasn't very mobile at that point either, so
I'm getting very close to getting married. So you're gonna have to stand up at my wedding, and you can't say no. So I'm throwing that out there now on the podcast, so we all know. Leon, you got that? You will wear a tux.
Fuck yeah.
Maybe a kilt, perhaps.
I'm down for a kilt.
I wore a kilt to stand up to for a buddy's wedding right before I moved from Milwaukee. So.
I own a kilt. I'll bring it.
Okay, I just own a black mini skirt, but we'll talk about that later. The last years with him were, him and I separated a little bit, and we kind of stopped talking for a little bit. And then he sent me a random message on Facebook where he was like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, nothing. What's going on?" So we started talking. Then next thing you know, we started playing Grand Theft Auto with each other. So, and he liked to play video games. That was his thing. So I'd come home, I'd work all day. I'd go to the gym. I'd come home. I'd talk to him on the PlayStation for an hour before I went to bed. Or on the weekends, we'd play something together. And we had like this huge moment where we reconnected. It wasn't like we really ever unconnected, but life kind of got in the way, and then suddenly it wasn't in the way anymore. So we were kind of hanging out through PlayStation, just kind of BSing, kind of figuring out what was going on. For 2 years. We started playing Friday the 13th together. I don't know if you guys ever played that game.
No,
it's freaking...
But I haven't played it.
Freaking awesome. Well, it was. Now it's not because it's completely dead. But we played that all the time. And we just had a blast doing that. We'd hang out and kind of do stuff that way. Because we couldn't really... he wasn't driving too much. He had some anxiety about driving because of a car accident. So he was just kind of... He didn't really want to go anywhere. He didn't want to go and drive, so he never really came to Wausau until Christmas 2019. I'm talking to him, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to come up." I'm like, "Well, when are you going to come up?" "Oh, I'm going to come up. I'm going to spend one day there, but we can hang out the night after my family's Christmas party." So I was like, "Okay, I haven't seen you in it's been a long time. It's been years, almost a decade." Like legitimately almost a decade was the last time I saw him. That's how long it's been. And he came up to Wausau, and we went to Bull Falls and had a beer. And then he was like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "I don't know. What do you want to do?" "Well, let's go cruise Grand Ave."
Oh God.
Okay. We're 35, but screw it. Let's go cruise Grand Ave. And it was just, it was like we never missed a beat. And he was, I was close with him, and I think he got a lot of, I don't know how many people he was close with at the end. I think that he was very close with me at the end, and we kind of talked a lot. I kind of knew a lot of what was going on with him. He knew a lot that was going on about me. So we were confiding each other a lot. We were just kind of, I always had a bond with him. And I think it was I don't know if you guys remember the homecoming dance, where he came to the homecoming dance. It was the first time he ever did anything. We went there and then we went bowling. But he came bowling with us, and it was like he was just, I think that a big thing for him was he just wanted to be accepted, and I think in middle school and elementary school he really struggled with that. And we kind of opened our arms to him. We brought him in, and it was like we didn't have any expectations of him, and he didn't have to do anything to be our friend. And I don't know if everybody was willing to do that for him, but we were. And we had that bond because we were wrestling together. We were doing all this stuff, and we really got to know him. Dude was a nice guy. He would do anything for you. He was literally just a great guy. He had some anxieties and he had some quirks, but we all have quirks. But he really he came into our group of friends, and it was like when he came in, it was like he belonged, and it was like he fit perfectly right away. And there was never a moment where anybody was like, why is this guy hanging out or anything like that. It was just, oh, Jensen's here, cool, what's up? We called him the Fonz, I remember, because of how he bowled for a little bit. So but I mean, it was, he came up that Christmas, we cruised Grand Ave, we hung out, we bullshitted, it was just like old times. If you would have told me that was the last time I ever was going to see him, I wouldn't have believed you. Because it seemed like every other time we hung out. It was like we were freaking 16 all over again, skipping school. It was like it was just a normal day for him. And then, he got sick. He was just sick for a while, and he had a cold, and he was just, and I remember Friday would have been literally the day before. I was texting him like, hey, what's up? What are you doing? And he's just like, man, I don't feel good. He's like, I went to the doctor today, and I'm just really sore from coughing. Everything hurts, and I'm really sweaty, and I don't feel good. And at the time he'd been really sick. And I don't know, I mean, you just kind of sit there like, oh, okay. Well, dude, I hope you're better. If you want to play something, let me know. And that Saturday, I hung out with my girlfriend. I didn't hear from him, which was weird because I've normally heard from him every day. He would at least send me a text like, hey, are you doing anything? You want to hang out? You want to BS on PlayStation or something? Not that he'd ever texted me. And the next day, I was watching the Super Bowl. And it was like the second quarter. And I don't like the Super Bowl because the NFL makes me mad. But I was watching the Super Bowl with my girlfriend, and my phone beeps at me. And it's a Facebook message. And it was Rainville. He's like, hey. I'm like, well, what's up? He's like, dude, Adam Jensen's dead. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? He's like, I just got a message from his sister. He freaking died last night. And I was just like, you're shitting me. There's no way he's dead. There's no freaking way he's dead. And I added his sister on Facebook, and she sends me this message. And I have not processed this yet. Like, I have not processed that he's dead. I think this is like, it's so cliche to say it was a rib. Like somebody was fucking with you, But it had connected in my head, and then she starts talking to me, and she tells me what happened, and he died that night. And I was just like, okay. And I didn't know how to process it. I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know what to do with it. I was there, and I read it, and I knew what it meant, and I know what death means, but I just was like, I could not put two and two together on that, because we're not old dudes. We're in our mid-30s.
But not that old yet.
No, we're he was 30, he was freaking 35. We're 35 years old. I'm like, he's dead. He just literally fell over dead. And we're 35. Like, what the hell just happened? And I had no time. I had no ability to process it at the time. And my girlfriends are like, what's wrong? And she knew him because she saw me play with him a few times. And she's like, I'm like, well, Jensen just died. And she was like, what? And I remember I sent both of you guys a message letting you know that he died. It's the weirdest thing I think that I've experienced in my life up to this point, because we are not that old. we're talking about something we did in our teen years. We're talking about something that was, a wrestling company that we did as kids and teenagers, and we're 35, and we're talking about one of us didn't make it past 35, and it's just like this, you know, this feeling of just pure, what the hell? What the hell happened? Like, why did he have to go? Like, why was it his time? And there's that whole, just, you know, processing it. Like, it's 2 years later now, and I'm not sure I've processed it. I'm not sure that I fully processed it. I remember Rainville and I went lifting the next night together, and we walk in the gym and we're changing, and we just look at each other, and we didn't know what to say. We literally didn't know what to say. It was just like, I don't know. I don't know how. I still don't know how to express that feeling of just what just happened. It was just so. It's like a weird emptiness, but at the same time, it's like this is way too soon for this. This is way too soon for a guy that was young, for a guy that still, there was things that man wanted to do. He was 35. Like, I'm 37 now. And, like, there's just a bunch of stuff I want to do. But he, at 35, that was it. That was just it. And that's his story. And it's just like, I mean, like I said, processing that has been a never-ending challenge for me. And I think, I don't know if I'll ever fully process it, because I feel like right now I should be able to get on my phone and send him a text message and say, hey, dude, what are you doing? You want to do something? But I can't, because he's not there. Like, I haven't deleted his messages off my phone. I haven't deleted his Facebook messages with me. Like, I still have all that. There's times where I go back and look at that and I want to reply to stuff because it's funny. So, I mean, that was, and I don't know what you two take away from it, but that's kind of what I took away from, was just this feeling of, we're way too young for this, man. This is way too young.
It was, I was over hanging out with my ex at the Super Bowl party over there. Some of their family and friends and everything, and being, it's still kind of silly that the Packers weren't playing, but enjoying the game, having fun. I get that message from you, and just kind of closed off at that point. Like, I didn't want to ruin everybody's good time, so I didn't talk about it there or anything. But you guys know me well enough where when I close off on shit, I just get quiet and, let's say more awkward than normal. And yeah, exactly. And make it through the rest of the game and give everybody hugs goodbye and head on out. Go to my truck and drove home and texted Drain afterwards. And I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. This is what just happened. This is what I just found out. I didn't want to talk about it there. Didn't want to ruin everybody's good time. And she's like, you could tell that. You could tell us that stuff. And I was just like, I know. But everybody's having fun, and I didn't want to bring down the whole association, and I just sat in my truck and cried for a while. Like, I had to get ready for work and head on in, but there was no just jump right to it, because just, like I said, kind of closed off for the rest of the game while we were sitting there watching. But when I got home, sitting outside the house in my truck, it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks.
I would say it was pretty much the same for me. I was floored for the same reasons that you had said, Town, that, like, we're not that old. Like, I don't think any of us are over 40 at this point. Like, what the fuck? Like, my family unfortunately has had a lot of death in it, but I can't remember being hit this hard. I can't remember a friend of mine dying, and so admittedly, Jensen and I were not, like, we weren't super close, but it was still like, I was very quiet for the rest of the day. And Jess knows me well enough that she knew that's how it was going to be, and supported me as best she could. But like, there's nothing you can really do other than do your best to process it, and sometimes that takes a long time. And I don't know that I still even to some degree believe that he's gone.
That's kind of like what Bill said with the whole expecting to just get a message from him or something. Hey, what are you doing
Yeah.
tonight, or something like that? Because like obviously the two of us weren't communicating with him as much, but every once in a while he'd send me stuff, and it was rare, but it happened. And one of those where you see things, you think of something, and like it brings them to mind. And if you want to go do the social media thing and share it with him, put it on his wall, or send him a message with something in it, like, hey, remember we did something like this, and but not there. And that's still
That one still resonates. That's still one that, and I was probably at the end, I was closer than you guys were, and it was just,
yeah.
I mean, just to process that still, we're 2 years out, and I don't think I've processed it, and it's just that thing where you just,
That shit takes time, man.
the world, it really pisses me off. Sometimes when I sit there and I think about how we lost him and the world just moved on,
Yeah.
like we should have stopped and we should have said, "Holy fuck, we just lost this guy. Can we just stop?" I mean, and that's not how it works, and I know that. I'm smarter than that. I know how it works, but at the same time, it's just like I need my time to process this and just figure this out. And I've never, like you said, Jake, it takes forever, and it's just one of those things that you don't know how long it's going to take. And every day with him, there's still days where it's like it's just not there. Like it's not, he's gone, but like I forget. It's like I wonder if Jensen's online. I should go see if oh no, he's not online. Okay. And it's just really hard to, in like rehashing these stories, it's a lot of, oh, then we did this. And when I say we, it was like the three of us, Rainville and Jensen. Like that was who it was. That's the ones that did it. We were the guys that did it. But we can't get his input because he's not here. And it's just, I like I said, I feel like the world should have stopped, and it didn't. And that's me being selfish, and it's just not the way it works, and I get that, but it was a moment that just changed. It just changed the world, it felt like to me. The world was different after he went. And I know that happens when a lot of people die, and I get that because they were a part of your life. But 35, man, that's not that old.
Oh.
I think his legacy is as a friend. I think his legacy is as a guy who cared about everybody. A guy who, if you were his friend, he would have done anything for you. He wanted to make everybody laugh. He cared about how you were doing. He was all about friendship. He was all about caring. He was all about that. And I can't even count the number of times you could ride in the car with him going somewhere to like Quick Trip, and he would make you laugh with something so ridiculous, and you wouldn't forget it. There's things he said that I will never forget. Like the time, Leon, do you remember the time we went to the wrestling show in Minnesota?
Yeah.
And we were in the car, and he had a 5-minute rant about enemas.
I don't recall it, but this sounds pretty on brand.
Yeah, he asked us if you gave someone an enema using pee, would it be a penema? And then it just unfolded from there. And then if it was beer, it would be a benema. And he just kept going, and it was me and you, Leon, and it was Rainville. And we were in my Suburban, and we were just freaking broke. I don't know how we didn't crash the car. Because we were just literally, he had us in tears. you know. And I think that's how I will always remember him, as just this guy who was, I think at times he was misunderstood. I really do, and I think that is a really good way to describe him. He's just misunderstood because he was never wanted to be, never wanted to create problems, never wanted to create anything else. Just wanted everything to be good, and he wanted to help the people, and not just his friends, but everybody. He was a kind-hearted guy, and that's kind of how I'll always remember him. And his sense of humor was so, man, it was so out in left field sometimes. Some of the things he did were just, I mean, they were hilarious, totally hilarious. But that's how I'll always remember him.
Yeah. And I don't know that I can say it any better than you did. I mean, his sense of humor, first and foremost, like, he was a funny guy. He was really fucking hilarious. Like, always. And I never got to see, and I regret this, that I didn't get to see him as anything more than that. Like, I got to see him as the to some extent the character of Rex, where he's always trying to make you break. He's always trying to make you laugh. But we didn't really hang out outside of wrestling shows, and so that was what I knew of him. And I think you're right. I think he was misunderstood by a lot of people.
What did you want? What now? I'm sorry. I was just kind of listening to Bud.
Leon, did you have any final thoughts, Leon?
Yeah, basically, we're on the how you remember him portion of kind of the closer here.
He was misunderstood, really hit it on the head. Because he was a bigger guy and he was awkward, like everybody. Well, not everybody. Yeah, misunderstood, I think, hit it on the head better than anything else. Because, like I was saying, like, he's a bigger dude, he was awkward. And because of that, and because of how easily he got embarrassed in social situations that wasn't just like, our core group, especially if there was like girls involved, people kind of picked up on that and kind of used it to be shitty to him. And as you get older, you kind of realize how shitty that was. But he was still just, like, even when he was low, he wanted to, felt like he wanted to always make sure that you were okay or I was okay, He cared. He was a big guy, he had a big heart, and I guess that would be the thing I remember about him, because he cared, which, not to sound too cynical, but that's rarer and rarer. So
I would agree with that. I think that's a good point. As he cared, he always cared. He was misunderstood and he cared, but at the end of the day, he was a great guy, and he was a guy that added a lot to our little wrestling company and to our friend circle. I mean, he was just a fun guy.
Yeah.
Even I think even more than the wrestling thing was his impact on us as his friends, and vice versa.
He was a one of a kind. That I will say, he was a one of a kind guy.
One of a kind.
I think on that note, I think one important thing is that sometimes I think with the world keep moving on and everything, like I said, like that, it's like he's forgotten. But I think it's really important to know that amongst us and amongst the people that knew him, that actually knew him, and the people that did stuff with him and stuff like that, you ain't gonna forget him.
No way.
There's no way he's ever gonna be forgotten, because he was something else.
So, on that note, I am Bud Robinson, signing out. This has been Town and Leon. Would you two like to say goodbyes?
Peace out, fuckers.
Bye.